Hey everyone! Today, we're going to create a cool visual effect, a dynamic indicator warning for a meteor impact in Unreal Engine. First, we'll create the material for our indicator. Set the material domain to deferred decal and the blend mode to translucent. Create two radial gradient exponential nodes. Add a float node and set its value to 100. Connect this to the density input of both radial gradient nodes. For the first radius, set it to 0.5 and the second's radius set to 0.48. Subtract first radius node to the second's to see result of big ring. Create another radial gradient exponential for the inner circle. I create a float variable set at 10 density to this radial gradient node. Create a float variable, convert it to a parameter, and name it inner size. Set its max value to 0.5 and its default to 0.01. Combine the ring and inner circle using an add node. Let's test the inner size parameter. Let add color to the ring by create color parameter, then multiply to ring output. Just do the same to the inner size. Now let's add both output colors to the base color material. And add nodes from ring and inner size to opacity material. Now let's test it. It seems fine for now. Now, let's create the decal actor that will display our indicator. Add a decal component to the root. Then set the material to indicator material. Set the decal size to 128, 128, 128. Here's something to watch out for. If the decal looks weird, just rotate Y to -90 degrees. This ensures it aligns properly since decals project along their x-axis by default. Alright, time for the meteor actor. I'll create a new actor called Meteor. First, I'll add a sphere collision and set it as the root. Then, I'll add a static mesh to represent the meteor visually. Finally, I'll add a projectile movement component to handle movement. Now, for settings, set rotation follows velocity to true so it faces the right direction. Set projectile gravity scale to 0 since we don't want gravity affecting it. Now, let's handle spawning inside the boss actor. In begin play, I'll add a delay node, 2s, before starting a looping timer by event set to 1 second. This will repeatedly spawn meteors. I'll create a custom event called Spawn Meteor. Using Spawn Actor from class, I'll spawn our Meteor Actor. I want my Meteor Actor to spawn above the boss's location, so I create getActorLocation and then make vector x equals 0, y equals 0, z equals 300. I add this to the boss's location and use it as the spawn position. Now, let's test it to see if it works or not. Now, let's calculate a random radius around the player's position. I use a random float in range node, setting the minimum to 0 and the maximum to 360. Then, I pass it into a degrees to radians node and connect the output to both cos and sin nodes. Next, I multiply the outputs of cos and sin by the impact radius, which is set to 300. I then use a makeVector node, setting x and y to the calculated values and leaving z as 0. Finally, I get the player's position and add it to the new vector, giving us a random target position around the player. Now, we have our random position around the player. But before we continue, let's see why we need to promote our result to a variable. First, I use a draw debug sphere to visualize the impact position. Then, I spawn the decal actor at the same location. Now, there's a small issue with the indicator actor. It's not oriented correctly. To fix this, I set the rotation y to -90 when spawning the decal actor. Let's test it. Did you notice? The debug sphere doesn't stay in the same location as the decal actor. That's because the random float in range node keeps generating new values every time it's used. To fix this, I promote the calculated position to a variable called target location. Then, I use this variable for both the debug sphere and the decal actor to ensure they match. One more thing. The debug sphere appears slightly offset on the z-axis. This happens because my player actor isn't positioned at 0, 0, 0. To correct it, I adjust the z value by subtracting 100. Let's test again. Now everything looks good. Let go to our Meteor actor to make it shoot to our decalator. First in begin play, I use delay node to 2 seconds, then use destroy node to kill it. Then I create custom event name its set target location. In the event it has two input variable. First variable named target location set to vector. Two name impact time set to float. Now I promote this two input variable into location variable for easy to use. To calculate direction, I use target location subtract with get actor location, then normalize result output, then promote it to variable called direction. To calculate distance, I use get actor location node with target location with node called distance vector, then I promote it to distance variable. To calculate the speed, I take the distance variable and divide it by impact time. Then, I promote the result to a new variable called speed. Next, I use the direction variable to determine the correct rotation. I get the rotation from the x vector and apply it using set actor rotation. Now, to make the meteor move, I grab the projectile movement component and set its velocity. I multiply the direction by speed to ensure it moves at the correct rate. Let's go back to the boss actor. Here, I take the output from the spawn meteor node and call set target location on the meteor. I pass in our calculated target location and set the impact time to 1 second. Now, let's test and see if the meteor successfully hits the target position. Let's go to the decal actor and update the inner size parameter in the material. First, I use the decal component to create a dynamic material instance. And promote the output to a variable called indicator material. Now, I add a timeline component. I set its length to 1 second and add a float track. Then, I add two keyframes. The first key at time 0 with a value of 0.01, the second key at time 1 with a value of 0.5. Next, I use the indicator material to set a scalar parameter value. I connect the float value from the timeline to update this parameter dynamically. Now, let's go into the indicator material. I copy the exact name of the inner size parameter and paste it into the set scalar parameter value node. To finish, I use the finished output from the timeline to spawn a Niagara system for the impact effect. Then, I called the destroy actor node to remove the decal actor. Now let's test it. Let's go into the indicator material and change the inner color to something else. This will help us see the effect more clearly. Everything looks good. Now, let's make our boss spawn meteors more aggressively, like he's angry at the player. To do that, I go to the set timer by event node and change the time interval to 0.1 second. Now we have it. Thanks for watching.